Green Day just did something that I have never seen a band do live before. And I've seen thousands of live sets over the years. In fact, 24 years ago was the first time I ever went to a live concert. And that was a Green Day concert, actually. That was the 8th of December in 2000 at Wembley Arena. And that started my obsession ever since of going to see as many live shows as I possibly can because of how formative that experience was for me. Now, veteran bands, when they get to the success level of Green Day, for example, or not even necessarily that big, but if they have a particularly successful album, something formative like The Black Album by Metallica, or Enema of the State by Blink-182, or like 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge by My Chemical Romance, to name 3 very random bands, but an album like that launches them into the stratosphere of the public domain, they might do a tour where they play that album in full from start to finish. And if they do that, fans love it. I mean, I certainly love it, because you get to hear the album that made a massive difference to your own life and got you into that band in full from start to finish. But I've never seen a band ever do that before, where it's 2 albums from start to finish in the same show, which is exactly what Green Day just did at Wembley Stadium a few days ago. Now, this is on their Saviors tour. That's their most recent album, which is fine as an album. It's not on the level of their previous albums, in my opinion. There's some good songs at the start, but anyway, on their Saviors tour, their new album tour, they decided to play in full 2 classic albums from their back catalog. I've never seen that done before. That blew my fucking mind, and it was incredible. Now, they opened the show with one of their new songs. It was a song, The American Dream Is Killing Me. It's actually a pretty decent song off of their latest album, and that worked really well as an opener as well. And it was a very exciting time to be in the massive Wembley Stadium. Curiously, the stage at Wembley Stadium is a little bit lower, oddly, than the standing ground. So it's actually kind of hard to see the stage. Sometimes my view was like this, but other times I'd be holding my phone up, or I could just about get on my tiptoes and see them. Now, as the concert went on, the view got a little bit better, thankfully, but the sound was excellent and the show was awesome. After their first opening song, they had a Dookie-shaped backdrop that came down, a big explosion-looking thing from the album cover. And that's when we were in for the treat of a Green Day fan's lifetime, when they're about to play Dookie from start to finish. And they opened up, of course, with Burnout. And at that point, the nostalgia waves just hit me so freaking hard. And I couldn't believe what we were about to get. So I had Burnout, we had every single song in order from the Dookie album. You had Longview with that iconic bass line rattled out by Mike Dirnt, which is phenomenal. So many sing-along moments. The songs still bang, and it was amazing to hear them at this level of high production that Green Day can produce now at a stadium like Wembley, because the sound was excellent, and they had all these pyrotechnics, fireworks going on, fire, all sorts of things. It was a really impressive show. There were so many amazing songs on that album that I couldn't believe I was getting to see live. Certainly not in the order of the album, so then you know what's coming up, which is also pretty exciting. The anticipation goes up. They had, obviously, Basket Case was maybe one of the biggest hits of all time. That was probably the biggest sing-along of the crowd of the night, perhaps. A couple songs later on in the set, which were also pretty massive, but that's a formative song that everyone knows the words to. That was huge. When they played She off of the Dookie album, Billy Joe Armstrong's son came on stage to play guitar with the band, which is a fucking cool moment. I don't think that person was even born when I first saw Green Day back 24 years ago. So that was kind of a bit of a mind-blowing moment to watch as well. What a cool moment for him and for his dad to share that together at Wembley Stadium at that show. They played When I Come Around, and when that started out, you could see to the side of the stage an inflatable airplane was starting to come around, which is from the cover of the album. And they eventually managed to nurse its way through the crowd, whoever had the strings that were holding on to it, and it dropped some like Dookie air balloon things in the crowd. They did not spare any expense in trying to make that as entertaining and interesting a show as possible. Now, one song that I never thought I would ever get to see live, which is one of my favorite songs of theirs, it's a bit of a deep cut off the Dookie record. It's called FOD, which I used to cover by myself just in my bedroom. I don't think I ever performed it for anyone. But that song, it's a longish song. It starts off acoustic, somber, and then it kicks into a full band moment. And they played that live, and I was overjoyed with that. Now, in my head, I thought that was the last song on the record. How incredible to have seen Dookie live from start to finish. But then the band goes off the stage, and Trey Cool, the drummer, is on by himself to sing the song all by myself, which is like the joke end of album song, which I don't know if they've ever done that live before, because why would you? But it was so entertaining. And it meant that really we had the full, complete Dookie experience, including that daft little interlude song right at the end of the album. That was a joy. And even at that point, I was delighted. I could have gone home happy. But that was not even halfway through the set, right? They then went into Know Your Enemy, which is off a couple albums ago. They brought a fan on stage to sing a section of that towards the end, which I'm always nervous about, because fans will say, I know the words, and then you're going to get stage fright. But actually, they did know the words. They did a good job. Had a nice almost scream moment towards the end. And then Billy Joe asked them to stage dive, which, I mean, stage diving is one thing when you're in a small club. It's not a big gap. Stage diving at Wembley Stadium is a trickier task. It's a big jump, probably. And they just about managed it. You can see they survived. They ended up surfing away and they were fine. Must be one of the best days of their lives. They did a decent enough job of that, but that was pretty fun to see. And they played Look Ma No Brains, another song off the new album, which is actually a pretty decent song and went down live really well. Another couple of huge songs was rattled through, like Minority and Brain Stew, one of my absolute favorites of theirs as well. And then the big inflatable hand grenade with the hand holding it. Iconic image of the American Idiot album started to appear, and that's when you realize they're going to play American Idiot, the album, in full, start to finish. Now, the second song on that record is Jesus of Suburbia, which in itself is like a 8-9 minute long song from start to finish. They've already played for something like an hour at this stage. They must have been exhausted. I mean, Trey Cool looked pretty sweaty on the drums at times, but that is a monster song, and they didn't make any mistakes. Certainly none that I could hear. It was wildly impressive, and other than the couple of moments where someone was injured in the crowd or someone passed out, they had to stop the show while security, etc., took care of them. Other than those moments, which were not scheduled, they didn't have any breaks. These guys are in their 50s now. This is mostly punk rock. It's like fast-paced, it is energetic stuff. And they played 2.5 hours. It was wildly impressive. And then something like Jesus of Suburbia, which is such a long song, and it's a big undertaking, nailed that in its entirety. Holiday was a big hit. Boulevard of Broken Dreams was a big fan favorite. Never been my favorite song, but that one went really well. There were moments where the crowd broke into a spontaneous sort of shining your phone torches moment. I rarely see that happen, where it's spontaneous. Normally they're bands like, get your lighters out. So that was pretty cool to see. And because it's a full album that they're playing, if there's a particular song you love off of it that's late in the record, you just know it's coming. And that excitement just amps up. And one of my favorite songs of Green Day of all time is Letter Bomb. I just think it's got a bit of everything. I love that song. And they rocked that one completely, and I loved it. And I think that's probably the loudest I sang all night. I just adore that song and sing along, especially the ending of it. Anyway, that was a joy. And then Homecoming is another song that they were then starting, which is one of these epics that's like 9 to 10 minutes long. Massive song. And you could kind of feel it in the crowd as well as sort of from the musicians on stage, like, oh boy, okay, we're going to do this. And they launched into that and they played the whole damn thing, and well done. And Jesus Christ. What's interesting is, because Green Day have been going for like 30 years, the demographic of the fans, such as myself, and I think I was probably one of the younger people there on average, I'm 38 almost, you know, we're no spring chickens anymore. And so it's amazing to have seen so many songs to this live set, but also I could see the odd person going, just because we're tired, we're old, and we're standing watching this hit after hit of punk rock awesomeness. It was tiring for us. I don't know how the fuck the band did it. Really impressive. But anyway, they capped off the American Idiot album. That was glorious. And then they finished off after that with another new song, and then ended, of course, with Time of Your Life, just Billy Joe Armstrong, acoustic guitar on stage to round it off, as is the right way to finish a Green Day concert. But I mean, wow. They're, getting on, but still they performed as if they were in their like 30s, I would say, despite the fact they are in their 50s. And to play 2 albums from start to finish and sprinkling in additional hit songs as well was insanely impressive. No click track at all either. And that was very evident. There were moments where songs were slightly too fast or slightly too slow, or they might speed up or slow down within the same song, but not wildly. Tré Cool was pretty metronomic about the way he performed. And it meant that in moments where they needed to stop the show because someone was needing some medical treatment, they could do that instantly. No problems. And then when they're ready to go, this 1, 2, 3, 4, and back in. There was no like, all right, find your spot in the click track, etc. So that was kind of handy to see. And I just love that. Listen, no shade against bands that use click tracks and have backing tracks. That can really add to a particular kind of performance. But there's something slightly special for me about the slight danger element of it just being the musicians loosely on stage, trying to sync up together, all according to what the drummer's doing and the beat that they're putting together, and them nailing that, and the sound being great, and the pacing being wonderful. That was so impressive. And, I mean, they've played thousands and thousands of gigs, so they're very, very good at this stage. But still, the length of time they were on stage at this massive Wembley Stadium iconic location, and they just absolutely crushed it. It was a joy to be in the crowd. I worked out that I've seen Green Day now live 6 times over the years. On average, essentially like every 4 years, it turns out, I would go and see Green Day. There were longer gaps in between there. And there was a point before this concert where I thought maybe I've seen my last Green Day show, because the previous 2 or 3 shows I'd seen were starting to get a bit samey. It was starting to feel a little bit theatrically rehearsed in terms of some of the banter or some of the improvised or crowd sing-along moments. They kind of did the same shtick in lots of those shows over the years. And I was becoming less interested in their newer albums, so the set list was becoming more of the newer songs I wasn't interested in. But when I saw that this was going to be a potential anniversary of Dookie, I was like, well, I'm going, just in case they play a few songs off of that record. And not only did I get to see so many songs I never thought I'd see live, and to see both those albums in full was wild, but also it felt more natural and authentic, and they were just there to rattle through songs. And it felt very genuine and not theatrical and too rehearsed. Even the fact that there's no click track, man, like when fireworks are going off, someone's having to trigger that based on when they're hearing it. And sometimes it was slightly off the exact beat of when like a big pyro would happen. But I kind of love that because it's live. And what you want to feel is these are the individuals that are in Green Day. They are live in front of me like right now, and anything could happen. Anything could spark that joy in your brain that this is a live experience we're all feeling and experiencing at one time with the band. And that's how it felt. And to have that translate in such a massive stadium is pretty special. And it was an absolute joy. It was a total return to form, in my opinion, for what Green Day can be at their best. And it was just a perfect Green Day. I adored it. So that gig is going to stay with me forever. And I did not expect that to be the case 24 years on to see them again, to be that good, that exciting, that well performed, and just highlight how incredibly iconic some of their songs are and how much they can still deliver it. And I feel very fortunate to have been able to see that gig. And I don't know if I'm going to see them again, because how can they top that? It was incredible. And now, if you don't mind, I'm going to go listen to Dookie again in full. Because, Jesus Christ, that's such an incredible record. And to have seen that album live in full and American Idiot live in full at the same live show at Wembley Stadium is something I just can't believe happened. And I'm still dining out in my memory on that experience today. And I think I will for a long time.